The cross of Christ. Behold our sorrowful condition, O Lord. Comfort your children and open our hearts to hope, so that we might feel your fatherly presence in our midst. So began the prayer of Pope Francis on a rainy night last week in an empty St. Peter's Square. His homily began, "For weeks we have been in darkness." Before we can live in hope, we must first give voice to our lament. Jesus' final prayer on the cross was a prayer of lamentation. My God, why have you abandoned me?" Suffering causes great disorientation, and voicing our complaint to God is not a sign of weak faith. No, it is the boldness of true faith. Crying out to God because we see the world as it really is takes great trust in God. It is in the dark places that new life is given by God. Jesus on the cross was honest with the Father. He had drawn near to creation, encountering all kinds of people. He actively worked to overcome suffering. Jesus gave us a new perspective on God. God is present in suffering. God brings life out of death. God brings light out of darkness. When we suffer, God suffers with us. Twice during this week, we will participate in the Passion of Christ. Once here on Palm Sunday and once on Good Friday. We proclaim the story, but not in the same way as we proclaim the other stories of Jesus' life. We proclaim the Passion in parts. It is a story that is our story. All of us recognizing that this gospel of all gospels is both the story of God's love for us and also our story. The Passion both reveals God's passion for us and the utter humiliation that was the consequences of that love. It also reveals our journey, our discipleship, the journey that deepens and saves us. Crucifixion was not simply capital punishment, something that is barbaric in any form. Crucifixion was also torture. It was carefully crafted to inflict excruciating pain that would go on for hours and even days. When prior to the crucifixion, the soldiers offered Jesus wine mixed with gall, it was not out of kindness. Gall is basically morphine, just enough to take the edge off the pain so that the victim would not pass out. They wanted Jesus to stay conscious, to experience the pain and humiliation. The gall also kept a person from dying too fast. Frequently, a person would hang there in pain and humiliation for days. Crucifixion also did not protect a person's modesty. Unlike our crucifixes that leave Jesus partially clad, he would have in fact been stripped to increase his humiliation. For the disciples, it would have been impossible to connect this kind of humiliation with glory, divinity, and triumph. It was not until the 4th century that Christians began using the cross as a sign of the faith. People who witnessed crucifixions knew it was a sign of disgrace. Father Rollheiser has pointed out that there are actually many parallels between crucifixion and what nature does to the human body through old age, cancer, dementia, AIDS, Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's, Huntington's, and other such sicknesses that humiliate the body before killing it. What is the connection between such pain and the glory of Easter? The paradoxical truth is that a certain depth of soul is only possible through a certain depth of humiliation. Ask yourself, what experiences in my life have made me deep? Inevitably, experiences that deepen us involve a certain amount of shame, a powerlessness, an inability to protect oneself, an abuse you could not defend yourself from, an inadequacy of body or mind that left you vulnerable, a humiliating incident or a mistake that exposed some lack in some area. These experiences potentially give us depth. They bring light into the soul. All of us, like Jesus, have in some way hung up publicly and been humiliated. The depth of our soul is equal to the depth of that humiliation. There's always a danger in such experiences. Humiliation can deepen our character, increase our understanding, graciousness, and forgiveness, or we can respond with anger, bitterness, revenge, and even murder. Jesus' crucifixion stretched his heart and made it huge in empathy, graciousness, and forgiveness. How we handle humiliation colors the rest of our lives. The Passion shows us the way of discipleship, the way that enlarges our hearts, the way that leads through death to life. The coronavirus has unveiled our frailty as a species, our vulnerability, and our fear. With Jesus, we give voice to our lament, trusting that our boldness of faith will open our souls to courage and hope. Behold our sorrowful condition, O Lord. Comfort your children and open our hearts to hope, so that we might feel your fatherly presence in our midst. The Cross of Christ.